And we'll see how the audio goes. You kind of never know. I do have a much better LAV mic now. It worked pretty well last couple of times I used it. Then I made the mistake over the last weekend, of trying to use a split mic. It probably would have worked. I have a splice that lets you do two mics from the original mic set I bought, but it just was not a very good set. Basically pretty cheap off Amazon, and didn't work well. But I had one running into the helmet and one running to the exhaust. I used the LAV mic for the helmet and it seemed like it worked fine, but the one going to the exhaust had so much distortion and static, it just ruined it. So first I was going to put the video on anyway without muted, and then just said screw it, it just was not worth it. And then the last video I had that did audio, I had my camera mounted on top of my helmet, which was fine. It just seemed a little odd. It gave everything this kind of ovalish look. I didn't really care for it. So we'll see how this goes. Kind of funny and random. Hello, Chipmunk. I tried to wash the pads inside my helmet, Oh yeah, wash them periodically, and I've got to admit, I don't think I've ever done that in helmets before. I mean, unless it was real bad. I have a couple times, but usually I guess I don't wear one helmet often enough. I have 3, sometimes 4, and that I just alternate between. But this is my newer helmet, and it did have I picked up a little odor, so I went ahead and washed it. The mistake I made was machine washing it. That was a ding-dong move, because it just shredded all the little plastic inserts, stiffening points. So you're better off, if you're going to wash the liners, just hand wash them. But the good news is, watching a couple motorcycle vloggers talking about replacing the pads periodically. So okay, well, just never occurred to me, I guess, but looked it up and they're like, $20, pretty cheap, so not a big deal. I'm just gonna buy a new set, and probably what I should have done in the first place. I don't even, washing is, you wash something, it's never really gets totally clean, especially if you hand wash it. You might clean it, but then you can't get the soap residue out, and there's always this, you can just tell the plush gets all matted down, and it gets a little hard in certain spots. So it's been I don't know if it's been kind of a late summer, really. It's now mid-May, and it's still a little chilly in the morning. That's fine, but yesterday was the first day it got hot. I mean, the absolute first day, and I don't even know if it was really all that hot. It was not necessarily AC weather. It was roll your window down weather. We still haven't gotten to the where it's hot. And for Georgia, that's pretty late. I mean, sometimes you get hot in April, so I don't know. It seems like some spots of the country are record heat, and then other parts are not as hot as they used to be. I would say it's probably been the last 5 years. It does not seem like we've had as hot of summers or as long as we have in the past. I think we only got maybe a handful of days last year where it hit 100 degrees or somewhere around there. I mean, usually you'll have 2 weeks of 100-degree weather. I'm not saying back to back, but they'll be fairly close together. And summer usually lasts, gosh, up into January sometimes. At least, I wouldn't say summer. I mean, it's a warm fall will go into late December for sure. I mean, I've played football in December, shorts and a t-shirt, So that's kind of the norm, or has been for a while, and in this last handful of years it's not been that way. It started getting cold, and gosh, even September, not cold obviously, but a little chill in the air, and then by November it's cold. You know, there's no camping, there's no out past sundown. It gets cold, so that's different. I mean, California's got record heat, Northeast has got record heat, Georgia's been cooler than normal, so I don't know, things shifting around. And then the summer started late too. But this last winter was pretty mild. We didn't get any snow. We normally get, I'd say the last 10 years, we've got a couple of days of snow. Not big, I mean, it's an inch or two. I'd say 4 years ago, we got a good 5-6 inches, 6 inches or more really, because it was pretty deep, North Atlanta area. And this year we didn't get anything. And I mean, even in our hottest times, we always got one snow. So this last year we didn't. I don't, you know, I'm not a weather guy. I kind of believe things just happen, one way or the other. It's kind of just part of nature. But hopefully that bodes well for a nice long summer, my favorite season. You can sit outside and drink a beer, you can go to the beach, you can eat outside, I mean, you can go see an outdoor movie, you can take walks, you can go swimming. So many more things you can do. In winter it's just, you know, dead, hibernation, cold. It's not, doesn't feel like life. Summer, you know, yeah, it gets hot, and sometimes it's so hot that, man, I feel like I'm gonna die, it's so hot. But it's still life, you know, everything's green, everything's chirping and moving around, and there's life everywhere. In winter, it's just not that way. It's just dead. So I know a lot of people like winter. I'm not one of them. Maybe if I was a little more heavy set, I'd like it, but if it was up to me, I'd move somewhere that doesn't have winters and just get away from it. I'm sick of it. Like, it's just so depressing too. Like, that's the thing here. It's when you get to fall, you start feeling that little cool air, and yeah, it feels nice. It's probably the nicest season, really. But in the back of your mind, you know what's coming. You know that cold is coming, and I just can't get it out of my mind. So I just focus on the stress of here comes winter. Got to make it through a winter. I wonder, I've never looked this up, just curious, how many people pass on in the warm months versus the cold months. You know, can't help but wonder, you know, is it the cold months? I mean, don't the Native Americans say how many winters somebody was? They don't say how many summers they were, because people die, I think, in the winter. Little Corvette. So the one downside of this camera is I can't, I suppose I could get another mount and put it on my open face helmet, but that would look a little weird. When I wear the open face helmet, I'm kind of looking for, you know, bare bones riding, just to feel the elements, to be outside. But the closed face helmet's probably more comfortable overall. Corvette made such a drastic change from their new car to their, you know, model here I'm looking at, that really makes the old ones stand out now. I wonder if they're going to become classic cars. You never really know. I'm sure at some point they will, but who knows. The new ones are pretty cool. I rode in one, a friend of mine's got one, and you know, not my thing. a little too much like you're sitting in a jet fighter cockpit. All the buttons are like wrapped around you, and this horseshoe, you're sitting inside this horseshoe. It kind of reminded me of the old Cadillacs a little bit from the 70s, where you got all these switches just all over the place. I don't know what half of them do. I don't know. I had a little sports car, Pontiac Solstice. I love that car. I wish I hadn't sold it. I wish I had kept it. But I didn't have a garage to really keep a vehicle up, and I don't know. I got a lot more money on the trade-in for it than I expected. I mean, I had it 7 years and traded it in. I got $8,000. I mean, that's pretty high for an American car with nearly 100,000 miles, if not more, on it. I think I may have had more. I can't really remember. But I regretted it later. So, you know, I wish I had just kept it. You know, what's $8,000 nowadays? It's not really a lot. It's gone before you know it. Threw it into some new car, and now I've got a Dodge Challenger, which I do really like. I mean, I would not trade my Challenger for the Solstice. Just it's more practical, I guess. With a big trunk, I can take trips in it a lot easier. You had to be really resourceful in the Solstice because you had a passenger seat, and the trunk for the most part was taken up by the convertible top. So I don't know, maybe a cubic foot of room, maybe 2 feet, and it wasn't like it was just a straight square. There were, you know, it was parsed up with compartments and things, bulges that made the volume of the trunk weird. You could maybe get a couple of bags of groceries in there, but for the most part you kind of had to rely on putting things in the passenger seat. And I had a little son at the time and got a car seat, and he sat in it, and it was fine. You know, I like the car. It was I will say this, it was a death trap. If it was dry, probably one of the safest cars you could be in, because it's like a go-kart. If it got hit, it's just going to slide. It was so light, it's not going to roll. But as soon as it got wet, any kind of water on the ground, the tires were so wide that they would get up on the water like boat paddles. And a lot of people think, oh, you know, wide tires are always better. They're great when it's dry, but when it's wet, they're not. Because it's just, you're expanding your weight, your pressure on the ground per inch, and so it doesn't take as much force with a little bit of water, and that rubber starts lifting off the road. And I had several times where the car just started going, and I don't mean sliding from the brakes. I mean just hydroplane, I don't know. And if you're a good enough driver, you can handle it. If you have, I would say good, but experience, and I was able to always recover it. But I always felt like it's just a matter of time. Wrong day, wrong situation, and, you know, smash. The roll bar was embedded into the windshield frame, but it was a bit of a joke. I knew if I wrecked it, you know, my head's hitting the ground, so I'd look like Frankenstein. But anyway, good car overall. It was basic though. Going back to the buttons thing compared to the Corvette, it was so basic. I mean, you had a stick shift. I had cruise control. I can't think of any other buttons that I had beyond the radio. I mean, it was pretty simple, and I loved it for that. You focus on the driving experience. So you get all these buttons and options and this and that. It's human nature. You're going to screw with them, and you're going to be screwing with them while you drive, and then you're not paying attention. And I also find if you ever put a bunch of money into a vehicle, and I'm sure there's a group of people in this country or in the world that when they buy new things, they don't get dings and damages real quick. But man, I am not one of them. I just like, as soon as I get something new, it's just I mean within a month, maybe 3 months, you're getting some kind of ding on there, and then you got to live with it. And my personal opinion is that God doesn't want you having too much pride, and when you start putting pride too much into a particular thing, an object, you're asking for it. I don't know, if you don't believe in God, then maybe you call it the universe code or Murphy's Law, I don't know, but it's going to get you. I've always joked around about, I'm going to go over this side of the lane, make sure if anybody's pulling out, they see me. A little procedure tactic. Hopefully whoever's injured is all right. But I have this little joke about taking the new item at the vehicle, find somewhere where nobody can see it, and put a scratch in it. Bam, you're done. You've done your sacrifice, and maybe now you can keep the vehicle for at least a couple years before you get a ding on it. I have not done that, but I've always joked about it. Maybe if I get another high-priced vehicle again, I'll do it. But a buddy of mine, his Corvette, and sure enough, within 3 months of having it, somebody just rear ends him at a light, and does all this damage, and the car's been in the shop for getting onwards of a year now. And the guy was going through some tough times, and I think he bought the car to kind of to feel better, and that's understandable. To deal with a midlife change, divorce, and got himself a car. He wasn't in the best shape, so he not going to go to the gym and meet a new lady right away. So the car helped him, and it just, sure enough, man, some teenage driver, and nothing against teenage drivers. I'll tell you what, in my opinion, a lot of the teenage drivers are better than the older drivers. It's the older drivers that are just in the phone all the time. I mean, all the time. At least in my area of the country, pretty much every red light you stop at, as soon as it turns green, the car in front will sit there without moving because they're inside that phone, and as soon as they stop, they pick it up. But anyway, she nailed him, and it's all fiberglass, so there's no replacing the modular piece like you can with a standard car. If you're riding a bike, anytime you stop, always look in that rearview mirror. Make sure the person behind you is going to stop. I got into that habit over time, just really from watching YouTube, watching guys talk about it, and I never did that before. I've always flared my mirrors out to the side because I'm more worried about car to my left or right. Really comes more from the days when I would ride the expressway several times a week. I had a 40-mile commute to work. It was 80 miles both ways, but 40 one way. So I'd flare the mirrors out and look to my left and right when I went to change lanes. But for the most part, I tried to keep it to one lane and not do all that lane shifting. See these guys, how they just run the red lights here. That's a non-Georgia influence. Most natives here respect the laws, respect the red lights, respect the stop signs to an extent, but it's people from other parts of the country, they come here, they don't give a shit. Where they came from, people don't stop at red lights. Like, it's just a suggestion. You run a red light down here, back in the day, man, that was a big deal. I mean, it was up there with DUI. So it just kind of boggles my mind. But there are a lot of cars and too many red lights too, so I kind of get it. But you're just kind of asking for it. And then you just know, as soon as somebody hits them, the first thing they're going to say is, my light was green. It's like, dude, if you're going to do some shit, just own it, would you? It's not, I get you don't want to get a ticket, okay? You maybe lie to a cop if you don't want to get a ticket. I probably wouldn't do that. I just own it, but I get people doing it. But you hit somebody, you cause an accident, just own it, because if you don't, you're putting it on the other Joe. And that's not right. I mean, come on. You wouldn't want somebody to do that to you, so don't do it to somebody else. I mean, a lot of times these people, well, everybody, we're just living check to check, and you're going to put that huge thing on there because it's something you did. See, I'm sitting here at the green. Well, it wasn't too bad. And then a lot of people run the lights because they get frustrated. They're sitting there, and they lose all this time because the person in front doesn't go when the light changes. So when the light starts to turn yellow, and they're like, hey, and 6 more cars would have gone if that guy in front would have paid attention. So they run it, they're frustrated. I get it. But still, I just hate. I had a guy run a red light in front of me one time, and I totaled a car hitting him, and sure enough, the light was green. You little lying sack of shit. No, it wasn't. It wasn't. turned left across my lane. It was a 45-mile-an-hour street. Your light was red as hell. I was coming down a hill, so I was at speed, and the light was green, and I was like 300 yards away, and 4 or 5 cars in front of this guy went, and then his issue was he hesitated, and he stopped. His light was solid red, mine's solid green. He hesitates, stops, and then, like, right as I'm about 30 feet away, like a squirrel, he just runs, darts for it, and I nailed him. And then I hear him telling his little lie, and then calls for an ambulance. I'm like, okay, here we go. He's going to try and sue me for bodily injury. So I said, well, I'm hurt too, and I went to the hospital too, so he didn't get to play up the victim card. And anyway, luckily went in my favor. But I mean, it was a lot of stress. Here I am. I just totaled my car. I'm a young guy. I'm living check to check. I'm sharing a place with 4 people, so I can afford the rent. This guy caused me to lose my car, and now he's trying to say it's my fault. I don't even know if I had. I guess I had physical damage on the car. I'm sure I did. I don't know, but luckily it got paid. But I'm sitting in the hospital now. I'm on top of being injured, which I was somewhat. I got to worry about the financial aspect of it for something he did. You know, just own it, bro. So anyway, but yeah, so anyway, going back to my point, I look in my rear view when I'm stopping. Then a friend of mine showed me a video. He was in Georgia. He was on a 2-lane road, and I guess him and his group made a habit of when they stopped going over onto the right margin of the road, which looked a little weird. And he was telling me up there they'll give you a ticket for that, but he said they do it anyway because, and he shows me the video, this car just didn't even apply the brakes, just slammed into the car in front of them where the bikes had been behind a moment earlier, but they had pulled over to that right side, so the car totally missed them. You know, I don't know if drugs were involved, meth or what, but it was probably somebody looking down at their phone. And I'm in the commercial insurance business, and I see these claims all the time. One was this lady. It's at a farmer's market, so it's a big parking lot. She's flying through, and there's a truck that is not even moving. It's parked with, they had the ramp down and red cones ahead and behind the vehicle showing that it stopped. I mean, they didn't even really need to do that. It's a big parking lot. Well, she flies through, flies up the ramp, hits the back of the truck, major injuries, totals the truck out. Luckily, you know, nobody's killed. And then she tries to say that the truck was just randomly in the middle of the street. Well, no, it wasn't. And the cones were all down, and then witnesses came out and said that they saw her looking down at her lap as she's driving through the parking lot. So there's the distraction factor, and then the other factor is, why are you doing 55, 60 miles an hour in a parking lot? It's a parking lot, not a race lot. Parking lot. So anyway, people do that stuff, and they're just not paying attention. My story, I had a iPod, the little shuffle thing, back, I don't know, a long time ago when they were still popular. And I'm fooling around with it, and next thing I know, I'm up on a Pine Straw Median. I mean, just that fast. It was a new technology, a new risk that people weren't aware of yet back then. And they've been around long enough. We know the dangers now. It's well known. And then with cars, they've got these Bluetooth systems. I mean, everything's connected. Why do you need to do that at this point? You know, I mean, it's not texting. It's not sending an email or responding to a call. It's people looking at their little personal feeds, which are designed to addict you, designed to make you want to pick that phone up every 5 minutes and look at it. It's all by design. So you got to realize it's an addictive thing. Don't pick it up. Leave it alone. You know, these aren't emergency texts that they're sending. It's, hey, what do you want to have for dinner? Blah, blah, blah. That is a kind of text. But a lot of it is these personal feeds. They're looking at their Instagram. They're looking at their Facebook feed. Or whatever. That's what they're looking at. And you'll see them, and they're just scrolling. They're not typing anything. They're just scrolling through. It's like, really? That can't wait, of all things. Good God, man. Like, stop being so self-conceited that it's just all about you. Think about other people around you. I think that might be a Southern thing. I mean, of course, everybody anywhere can be that way, but it's more of a common trait, or what a common custom in the South. Of course, the South is so watered down now that people from everywhere. Not to brag, it's just, I don't know, people I would say tend to be a little more cognizant of those around them down here. Not Atlanta. I mean, Atlanta's different. It's just dog eat dog here. Everybody's racing, trying to get to work. Gotta get there. And half the time it's like these people have jobs where if they're a few minutes late, it doesn't even matter. So why are you racing like that? It's this human instinct to outrun everybody around you. But if you can kind of think to yourself like you're walking, like you're outside, you're just walking down a path. You wouldn't go running down a walk path. You walk, you take your time, you enjoy the sights, you smell the odors, you look at things. Even if you've been down that trail 100 times, you take your time with it. And I think if you drove a little like that, forget safety, it's just a more enjoyable ride. You get to take your time, and you're not in a rush. You get to not get the stressors built up. And then you're dealing with like these road rage situations. Does that feel good? Now, some people enjoy being angry. Some people enjoy, use that crosswalk, bro. Not that it really matters there, but some people like to be mad. Hey, if you like to be mad, and that makes you feel good, okay. But in the long run, you're going to end up with some kind of cancer or something. Just chill. But the other thing too is you end up getting to the place the same time. It really doesn't do anything. I mean, maybe if you're like out in the country and you've got big long roads, you get on the expressway, dodging in and out, yeah, you might gain some time, but these 2-lane roads around here, around North Atlanta, you're not getting anywhere, because every block, every mile or two, there's a red light. And if you just barely make one light, you're going to hit the next one. And the engineers that put these lights together have designed it so everybody's in a pod. They like people in these little pods, which keeps, in their mind, they think that it keeps people from speeding and acting recklessly, but I think it actually has the opposite effect. I think people get in these pods, and their first human instinct is to get out of the pod, to break loose of it. So you get these people dodging in and out, but it doesn't matter. I make this light every day, but I hope the next one is red every day. I don't care what speed I go. I can go 40, I can go 55, 60, it just doesn't matter. You're going to hit this light up here. So, why lay on the speed? I will credit, I got this Traveler's Insurance, driving app that monitors your driving. It gave me and my son a discount of like $500 or $600. So I needed to do it. You only have to keep it on for 90 days on your phone, and it monitors your acceleration, hard braking, distraction, of course. I think that's their main thing. And what's the other one? I guess whether or not you speed. So, put it in, and I started watching what I was doing, and I was like, holy shit. I'm at the excellent rating on the app, but the holy shit was how much more enjoyable the rides are. Car and bike. So I might keep it. I mean, I probably won't, because here and there you might give it a little gas or something. I don't want to constantly be on the grade scale for every little thing I do. But I do want to walk away with having some basic improvements to my driving. And one of the things I've learned to avoid hard braking is not necessarily, the brake itself, but don't tailgate a car in front of you. If you stay back about as far as I am right now, you won't have to hard brake. But when you get up on somebody, you're constantly dancing with the brake. Another thing, Don't change lanes at a red light. For God's sakes, don't change lanes at a red light, please. Because when I start stopping, I've got in my mind, you know, we all apply a particular amount of pressure to the brake to stop softly at the end of that. And when you change lanes, like let's say there's somebody up here that cuts in front of this white truck, well, now you just halved my stopping. And so now I got to get on the brake. And then the damn light turns green and we all start to go, and it's like, doesn't even make a damn difference anyway. If you change lanes at a red light, just look over and make sure nobody's coming at all. If somebody's coming, just wait. That is my Diablo sound bomb horn, by the way, which is a great investment. I think it was 30 bucks with shipping 50. Took me about 5 minutes to put it on. It's a click in and go to replace the dinky little bicycle horn bell I had before that came with the bike that BMW's been putting on their bikes for the last 10 years or so. It's just absolutely terrible. Nice little turn here. I forgot to take my allergy medicine this morning. That's gonna be great. I wondered why I was like had this not free and easy breathing this morning. My nose does not like to cooperate in the morning. I feel like I got something that's about to grab in my throat every time. So here, yeah, I could run it. I'm just gonna go up the top of the hill and stop anyway. So I'm just, you know, don't worry about it. Another thing that's kind of funny, I see drivers do the solid white line here. You should be stopped behind it, totally behind it. The front of your bumper should be behind it, but yet people will roll over the top of it and be halfway out in the intersection when they stop. I don't think most people even know what the line is. Like, you know, what does it really even mean? Well, the reason it's there is that somebody turns left across the traffic and they've got you know, if it's a big truck or something with a long wheelbase, they're going to go across the front of your lane when they turn. See, here's one. See that big truck? That's why that line is back there instead of up here with these lanes. If you work in an area that's got a lot of big trucks, or, you know, in that area frequently, you'll see why. But, you know, up here they don't have as many, so people just don't know. And maybe it's not that big a deal, really, but it's just funny when you see somebody stop way above it, past it, I mean. I heard a guy at a bike shop, they were kind of making fun of Harley riders, how they stay upright when they turn. No, I'm sorry, it wasn't at the shop, it was just some guy that I was looking at the house to rent by him, and just got talking to him. Anyway, oh yeah, how stupid it was. I'm like, no, man, it's like I do all of it. I'll sit upright sometimes I lean, sometimes I, you know, do a little counter steer. I do whatever I want to do. Every moment is different. There is no set turn. You can't ride a Harley like a sport bike. And you can't ride a sport bike. Well, you can ride a sport bike a little bit like a Harley. You can get on a sport bike and just, you know, keep upright and do your steering and not, you know, move your body motion. I call it towering, when you stay straight up and then you move the bike underneath you. Sometimes you go into a turn where you've got lean, but then there's some debris in the road, or there's water in the road, or you get into too steep of an angle, and I will then put a little bit of body weight outside, inside towards the inner circle, which will let me put the bike more upright. I don't know if that's counter steering or not. I don't really. I grew up riding before that term even existed, and that lets you lift the bike a little more upright. So when you go through that debris, you don't have as much angular traction on the tires. Ice, you know, if you see any ice, which hopefully you're not driving in that kind of weather, but if you have to, and it happens, you want to be straight as an arrow, obviously, and you kind of don't want to have any traction going on when you go over the ice. You know, no brakes, pull in the clutch, straight up as an arrow and just go across it. I had to do that once. I bought a bike New Year's Day, maybe it was the day after, but you know, during the day it was fairly warm, and well, I'm not warm, but it was cold, but not super cold. There really wasn't much. There were some ice patches out there, but you know, it was not as it was rare, you know, but you got to be on alert for it. Nice new big BMW K1600 cruiser, all the little levers and buttons and options, and I lived, gosh, 40 miles away from the shop that I bought it. Well, the dealer just took forever. I don't know why. By the time we get done, you know, the sun's down, it's night now, and I gotta drive home in the night, and there's ice on the road. You know, that might have been a good situation for a trailer, but you know, whatever. I did not have a trailer at that time. So I drive going down the expressway, and sure enough, I go under a bridge where the sun never got to that part of the road all day, and there's a big patch of ice. Pull in the clutch, straight as an arrow, no traction, no brake, nothing. Go over the ice, and I felt that little whoop, just enough to make your ass tighten up like a wine bottle on a cork. You know, but luckily nobody was on the road, nothing happened, it was fine, but kind of funny in hindsight. I don't know why anytime I bought a bike it always ends up being winter. It's kind of counterintuitive, you know, like, why are you wanting to buy a bike in the winter? But I do ride all year. I just have a heated suit, but really just a heated jacket's all you need. I don't do the pants. Maybe it's different with BMW, but because the engine heads are these R engines, they sit, you know, right in front of your legs, so you get this you get the heat off the engine into your legs. But somebody told me that if you keep your core warm, it'll keep the rest of your body warm, you know, your heart, your chest, your lungs, and that's definitely true, within reason. Down to 40 degrees, you got a heated jacket on, and you feel like you're at the beach. It's nice. Below 40, it's a little uncomfortable. You can still do it. I've ridden in 20-degree weather. Maybe I'm crazy, but I enjoy it. So I got my knee kicked out to the right here to help me kind of not have to lean in too much on this bike. The foot pegs will drag if you get too low. This roundabout up here, when I first got this bike, the first time I rode it to the office, it dragged. You know, it catches you off guard, going, damn, you know, it scares you. So I'm gonna let this guy go. I like to, if I see oncoming traffic, this one's pretty far off, I'll put my turn signal on when I'm in these things, so they know that I'm going to go across the lane, or know that I'm going to exit the roundabout before they get there. It's kind of as a courtesy, if anything. But anyway, I don't bottom the pegs out anymore. You know, I've learned the limitations of the bike. The reason I did is because the bike I had before this was a S1000 Sport, and you get that thing down to a 20-degree angle if you want it. I mean, you're not going to scrape. I'd whip around that turnabout. I don't even know if I'd hit the brakes. And get this bike, and I tried the same little posture, and does not work. Well, anyway, that's the end of this ride, and if you watch it, I appreciate it, and hope you have a great day. Bye.